Hello everyone, I am Neha Kazi from Leelavati Laljidal High School and College of Commerce. In our Science 2 class today, we are going to talk about chapter number 1, Heredity and Evolution. So these are the topics which we'll be discussing in this chapter. So let's start with hereditary and hereditary changes. So first, let's understand what heredity is. So the transfer of biological characters from one generation to the next one with the help of genes is called hereditary. So it was Gregor John Mendel in the year 1886 who studied the topic modern genetics. So he is basically the pioneer of the modern genetics. And he discovered the series of experiments on pea plant to explain inheritance of characters. So he carried out this experiment so that he could understand the inheritance of characters. All right. So here let us understand the benefits of science and heredity. So we can understand the diagnosis of hereditary disorders. Then we can have the treatment of incurable disorders which are there, which are again based on hereditary. Then prevention of hereditary disorders, production of hybrid varieties of animals and plants, use of microbes in industrial processes. So all these things will become possible if we understand heredity. All right, so that's about heredity and its changes. Now, let us talk about what transcription, translation, and translocation is. All right, so here, starting with transcription, it is the synthesis of mRNA. All right, as per the nucleotide sequence present on the DNA molecule, that process is called as transcription. So the nucleotide sequence present in the DNA molecule is called the gene. So genes control the structure and functioning of cells of the body. Information required for the synthesis of proteins is stored in the genes, that is in the nucleotide sequences of DNA. So the proteins are then synthesized according to the needs of the body. All right. Then we have something called as the central dogma. All right. So synthesis of proteins by DNA through the RNA is called the central dogma. All right. So DNA transcription, then we have the RNA translation to protein. All right. That's how this works. Okay. So we have the genetic information then which is from the DNA to the RNA passing down from these two. Then through RNA for protein synthesis. All right. So mRNA is produced according to the sequence of nucleotides on DNA. During transcription, only one of the two strands of DNA is used. So the sequence of nucleotides present on DNA strand gets copied in mRNA. Hence, there is always complementary sequence produced on the new mRNA module. Alright, so RNA molecules have uracil instead of thymine present in DNA. Thus, by transcription, mRNA molecule, which is complementary to DNA, is produced. Alright. So translation as per the codon on mRNA, the tRNA molecule with complementary anticodon is brought near mRNA. This process is called translation. Alright. So now let us talk about translocation. So the ribosomes keep on moving from one end of the mRNA to the other end by distance of one triplet codon, and this process is called translocation. So many such polypeptide chains come together to form different and complex proteins. So the proteins are essential for controlling various functions of the body of living organisms. All right, so that was about transcription, translation, and translocation. Let us move ahead and talk about evolution. So, the gradual change occurring in living organisms over a long duration is called evolution. Evolution results in the development of organisms and transformation ranging from changes in the stars and the planets to the changes in biosphere on the earth are studied in the field of evolution. And due to evolution, there is formation of new species. Due to the natural selection, there are continuous changes in specific characters of several generations of living organisms. Okay, so now let us talk about evidence of evolution in detail. These 6 points we are going to talk about. So let's begin with morphological evidences. All right. So, similarities in the external and visible features are called morphological evidences. In animals, similarities in the structure, such as mouth, nostrils, and earpen, position of eyes, thickly distributed body fur or hair. In plants, it is similar characteristics such as leaf shape, leaf venation, leaf petiole, etc. These things will be similar. So these similar features indicate that origin of different animals or plant groups must be the same, having a common ancestor. All right, so that's how we work with morphological evidences here. We check about the similarities. Okay, then we have anatomical evidences. So the human hand, cat's foreleg, flipper of a whale, and pentagium of bat show difference in their features, right? So all these things will be different. Here, as we can see, look at this. This is different. This is different. Again, this is very different. And this is different altogether. So all these species have the different features that are there. Okay. So these organs also have different uses, right? Depending on which creature we are. All right. So, however, the structure of the bones and bony joint in the organs of each of those animals show similarity. This is an indication that all these animals originated from a common ancestor. All right, let's move ahead and talk about vestigial organs. Okay, so now here, vestigial organs, they are the degenerated or underdeveloped organs which cannot perform any function are called as vestigial organs. Existing organs undergo gradual changes during evolutionary process. Thus, they form new tissues, organ, etc. Under certain environmental conditions, such as changes are necessary. However, some structures become useless in newly changed conditions. So, due to natural selection, such structures undergo degeneration and after a very long time span, they vanish. So, appendix may be useful for grazing, ruminating, herbivorous, but it is vestigial for man. Other vestigial organs in human body are tailbone, muscles of ear pinna, wisdom tooth, teeth, and body hairs. All right, now let's see the next one, that is connecting links. So some organisms share morphological characters of two groups and hence they are called connecting links. Okay, so first one here, an example of this is peripatus. So it shows characters of Annelida and Arthropoda, and thus it is the connecting link between these two phyla. All right. Okay, now let's proceed with the Darwin theory of natural selection. Okay, so let us first, when we are talking about Darwin's theory, we first need to understand Charles Darwin. It is through his name that we have this theory because he proposed the theory of natural selection. So, this theory is an important milestone in the study of evolution. So, the survival of the fittest, that is, organisms which are fit for survival, evolve while those that are not perish. The natural selection thus acts to produce new species. All right. Then, what was the objections that came up for Darwin's theory? So some more factors are responsible for evolution and not just the natural selection. Any explanation about useful and useless modification was not provided by Darwin. Causes of slow and abrupt changes was not explained by Darwin. And these were the objections that came up. All right. Now let's talk about Lamarckism. So it was Jean-Baptiste Lamarck who proposed the principle of use or disuse of organs and theory of inheritance, ancestry of acquired characters. So his concepts are known as Lamarckism. Every living organism tries to evolve. During its lifetime, it acquires certain characters through adaptation and modification. These characters are passed to the next generation then. So, depending upon the activities or laziness of that organism, these changes occur. All right, so for example, like for several generations, giraffe extended the neck for browsing on leaves from heights. Due to such extension of neck, giraffe became long necked. All right, so that's about this theory. Then we have the human evolution. So the biodiversity that is known today has been said to be formed from a very simple unicellular organism due to evolution. In this evolution, origin of human evolution can be shown as per the picture which is here in front of you. Look at the evolution that they're talking about, students. See, starting from here, growing, okay, developing again, see here, and finally this. So this is the journey of human. All right. So ape-like animals stayed in Africa, and from them gorilla and chimpanzee evolved about 2.5 crore years ago. Evolution of some of the 2 crore year old species of apes seem to be occurred in different way. They had to use their hands more for eating food and other work. So first record of human-like animal is with us in the form of Ramapithecus ape from East Africa. Afterwards, this ape grown up in size and became more intelligent, and thus the ape of South Africa evolved about 40 lakh years ago. So that's all, students. In this chapter, we have done a quick summary of what the first chapter is all about, and I hope you all have understood it. Thank you so much.